we were having a look at all the talks in Cannes, and I can't see anyone else that's really addressing the issue with juniors, or whether there is an issue with juniors, but the effect AI is having on that level and what's going to happen in the future. So I thought if we could get together and all talk about it, it could at least sort of kick off a debate that we can have in other places and could be the beginning of something. So we will see. But thank you so much. So we've got Claire from DesignBridge, Group ECD of DesignBridge. Thank you very much. Daisy from Craft, who's one of the best recruitment agencies in the business. We've got Emma from Wolf Ollins, who's also Group ECD. And we've got Shola, who has just come through, well, not just come through, a couple of years ago, come through a D&AD shift, so he's got real sort of lived experience. But should we start by just the initial question of, is it a problem? Are we losing our juniors? Is it going to affect the industry going future in the future?
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Daisy, yeah, from a recruitment point of view, what are you seeing?
It's something we've seen before, and I dare say we'll see it again, that there's a challenge bringing juniors into the industry. When I say we've seen it before, going back to, whenever there's uncertainty in the economy or in society or in the world, then people get nervous and people stop hiring, right? We know that. It's happened before in 2008, of course, with the financial crash. Yeah. That impacted bringing juniors in. And so we were having conversations in 2014, 2015, where people were struggling to find design directors because people hadn't come up at the right time through the industry. So now we're, of course, seeing that again. The challenges, particularly from COVID at the moment, actually, is that people weren't training juniors in 2020 and 2021. And so we're seeing this real gap, actually, of sort of midweight talent right now. So we can see that it is a challenge, but we've weathered that storm before. I'm sure we will again. So I feel that it's one of those cyclical things that we do need to face into and acknowledge, and not, just disperse the accountability for it, but do something about it.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. Claire, what about you? Have you seen it from a DesignBridge point of view or throughout the industry?
Yeah, I think there is a slowdown for sure in terms of the hiring pipeline. And I think it's super interesting to talk about AI, because all of the talks, I've been here a day and a half, and all of the talks are talking about that. They're not necessarily talking about the impact on people. They're talking about how we harness AI and how we make sure the quality and the creativity is incredible. So I feel like AI is part of the story. I also agree with Daisy. I think COVID had a huge impact, both in terms of remote working, in terms of time and budget pressures, and actually relying on more senior staff. So I think it's been something that's been happening gradually, and I would say then all of a sudden it feels like a much bigger issue.
Yeah. Emma, how about you?
I'm going to be quite controversial and say
I like that.
I think the agency model's broken, which is having an effect on why we're not seeing as many juniors coming in. We know that clients want to speak to or want to work with the practitioners, with the people doing the work, and that is often the most experienced people in the team or in the agency. We also know that clients want it faster and they want it cheaper. And again, that often costs out the juniors, because you go straight to the experienced people who can do it faster and who can do it cheaper. It doesn't mean it's better work, but that just tends to be what happens. And because of that, juniors, I think, are squeezed out. So I think we should be looking at the agency model as opposed to questioning whether the internship model or the junior model is broken.
Yeah, I completely agree, because if every time gets hard, it's easy to drop one part, then it can't be the best way of doing it. There must be other ways of... Shola, how about you? Have you found it you're the one with the most recent experience of this?
I guess from lived experience, I started to try and be an apprentice, a junior at a junior age, which was actually some years ago now. But when I was going around, I was knocking on basically every door in Adland, almost every door. Didn't really get a sniff. I was there with my creative concepts, copywriting hooks, all this kind of stuff. And but yeah, I would say broadly now, I would dovetail from Emma's point to say we're now seeing a parallel universe of guerrilla creators who are harvesting engagement online and taking the fast route. So they'll be called into senior work on creative senior level work, album covers, and we're now seeing more fans get involved in that process. So yeah, just to add a different flavour to the conversation, I think there is actually another route that people are taking, and it's outside the industry completely. Yeah.
I'm going to build on that as well. Look at this little duo. Like people like Zoe Sackman. Is it Zoe Sackman, the strategist? She's everywhere. She's amazing. Look at a banker. But I think there is like a fast track, or there is this kind of slightly new model where people can go out and do it themselves, and people like clients, businesses, brands, they're jumping straight to those people and kind of forgetting the agency and the teams that are doing that. And I think that's what you're talking about, and that's where you have the advantage as well.
So what's changed? Is it because of AI, or is it confidence levels, or what's the...
I mean, because of the position that I'm in, I don't tend to work as closely with the juniors, so keep me honest. But I don't know if it is necessarily because of AI, because I don't think AI does the job of a junior. It's just a tool that the juniors use. So juniors are still doing the presentation decks, they're still doing the image searching, they're still making the cups of tea, they're still doing the ideas, they're still designing stuff. They just happen to use AI to do that. I don't think AI at all is driving them out.
It's like a tag team right now. But no, I would definitely agree with that too. And I would say, like, if you, like there's thousands of people that would be sitting here if I wasn't sitting here in this position, that would, from underrepresented communities, that would tell you that it wasn't working before AI. Like, actually more formidable than this AI question that is affecting everybody has been selection bias for people like us. And yeah, I guess it's just been a much bigger challenge to get over that. I would say, obviously, AI is affecting emerging creatives, broadly speaking. But yeah, there are other challenges way bigger than that.
What about you, Claire? What do you think are the main challenges for juniors then nowadays? What's the...
I think it's opportunity. I think it's a struggle to get through the door in agencies for whatever reason, and every agency is different, and it's up against huge challenges themselves. But I think also when they're through the door, you need that agency to be committed to developing them. Yeah. So you need somebody who is invested in them, wants them to succeed, is mentoring them, is looking out for them, is spotting opportunities, whether they are, developing stuff in AI, whether they are, making tea, whatever they're doing. You still need, one, the initial commitment of the role, which is harder to, always get. And then it is the commitment to develop them through. And I think something massively related to that is how you develop their skills, when I feel like there's a little bit of an assumption that if people are developing work with AI, that it's somehow easier, or that generation are better equipped to do it. Yeah. But actually they still need a huge amount of guidance and, coaching in terms of taste and judgment. Yeah. And I think that's the really interesting part of it, that more than ever they need to be exposed to experienced people that are adding that human quality to it, that are really, bringing out the soul in the work, regardless of how it's being created.
Yeah, how they get that experience. How do you develop the judgment if AI's kind of doing some of that work? Maybe it just isn't. Maybe it's the wrong argument, the wrong question.
I mean, I don't think AI is doing the judgment.
Yeah, it's definitely not doing the judgment.
I think AI is the equalizer in a way. AI is, helping us concept quicker. It's doing, huge things. I heard a talk this morning, and this is such a lovely analogy, that people are talking about AI as a tool. So a tool could be a hammer. It's a blunt instrument, it's used for something. If you actually think of AI as an instrument, actually that's a very different thing. You can't just pick up a guitar and be Jimi Hendrix.
Yes,
you need a huge, frame of reference and judgment to make sure what you're creating is incredible and ownable and distinctive and different.
Yeah, I think I would distinguish the two as you play an instrument, so you're creative with an instrument as opposed to the tool. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I do love about AI, hold it too close, it is getting rid of a lot of the shit in the industry, a lot of the average, and I don't think that's anything to do with what level you are. It's just getting rid of a lot of the average fluff that is in the industry at the moment. It's nothing to do with levels, though.
By getting rid of, how do you mean? Do you think
Well, it's AI is, to your point, is an instrument, and if you don't use it properly, so it requires the good ideas, the craft, for you to stress test against AI. But if you're getting it to do that for you, if you're saying, hey, ChatGPT, give me an idea for X, Y, Z, it's going to replace you because it's doing your job. Whereas if you go, hey, ChatGPT or whatever AI platform that you use, I've got this idea, can you stress test it? Can you challenge me on this thinking? Then it's helping you, then it becomes an instrument, then it becomes a tool of use. And I do think there are an average layer within our industry that is using it, to do their job for them.
Yeah, you said before about that. We've talked before about how you use it to challenge yourself and to make yourself better. And if you use it to make yourself better and re-stretch yourself, then that's actually going to be really helpful.
And I think that's what juniors do. That's why I don't necessarily, well, I don't agree at all, actually, that it is doing the job of juniors. I think it's actually making juniors better because they are using it in those ways, from what I've seen as well.
So do you think it's more difficult for juniors to get into the industry today? Because it's always been really difficult, but what's the current situation on it?
Sorry.
Conchola.
I'm kind of flying this flag for sort of like diversity of thought, and AI is another tool that thinks. But like, I guess I'm flying that cultural flag a little bit more still, because it's been a long time, and I think that look, throughout my 20s and I'm still in my 30s, but throughout my 30s as well, I will go on that My Team page on an agency. You look for someone like you, and invariably, almost always, it's like IT. It will be reception and maybe legal. Like I don't see other creatives in that space. Yeah, and many people will attest to that as well. So I think the World Cup's on now, and you can clearly see like people with all different types of passports representing different countries. But at least, in sport, you have that objective barometer of talent. In this industry, you're allowed to sort of get around that. Because it's not so objective. It's down to your subjective opinion and your choice. So I think we really need to challenge ourselves more to be more like those sports teams where you see that diversity of thought and culture. And so for me, I'm just looking through that cultural lens, and I think I'm just here to say, just represent those people that aren't here right now. To say that.
I think it's as hard to get a job. That's a brilliant point, by the way. I think it's as hard to get a junior job now as it ever has been. I think that AI has kind of revealed that, it's kind of exposed that rather than created it. I graduated 16 years ago now as a design graduate, and it took me over a year to get a job in design. Abso-fucking-lute, it's horrible. Yeah, it took me ages. But that's always been the case. I learnt a new term this week, which is doom jobbing, which is the act of just scrolling jobs and being so disillusioned by them that you don't apply for anything. That still happened 16 years ago, and it is hard to get a job in design. It's an incredible industry to be in. Of course it's hard, and the bar is very high. I think so. It is easy to get disillusioned, but the opportunities, I do feel, are still out there. They will always be space for creative thinkers in jobs we can't even imagine yet. So yes, it's hard. It always will be. But I speak
to lots of students, and I get lots of sort of design festivals and that kind of thing, and I get lots of feedback from them saying, I've applied for 100 jobs over the last 3 months, and I keep sending CVs out, and I keep sending portfolios out, and no one gets back to me. I don't think there's anything out there. And I try and talk to them about maybe stop doing that approach. How do you stand out? Especially going into an industry where your job is to make things stand out, you've got to try a different way. You've got to do other things. You can't just keep firing off the same thing and thinking there's nothing out there.
I don't know if it is any harder, because I think it was just, I came into the industry 20 years ago, and I think it is just as hard. And again, keep me honest, but I get hundreds of emails a week, and I think some of them are lazy. I think you send a PDF to a creative director of a company that you've Googled, and then you're annoyed that you don't get a reply. well, you're just one of 50 I've seen in the inbox that day, and that was no different back when I started. I literally would walk around London, turn up at studios, knock on the door until they saw me. I wouldn't go away. Or I would do things like I explained to you, Claire, that on my first job, to get my first job, I wrote all over the face of somebody, my CV or something, on their face to get their attention. And I think a lot of the time, I don't know why you're any good or where you're any different from somebody else because you haven't told me your value. I don't care what your degree is. I don't care about your CV. I want to know what I'm buying from you or why you're better than the next person. And I think this is one of the other questions that you're going to ask. I think the problem is graduates don't know how to sell themselves. They don't know what the value is. They're taught the fundamentals of design, but they aren't taught about actually how to get a job, how to sell themselves, and then how to perform in a studio.
Yeah, I completely agree. So what stops diversity in the industry? What stops why isn't it an equal industry? I'm fascinated by this at the moment and looking like, is it a problem with education? I think it's a problem with the visibility of brand design in the first place. There's lots of different things, but from your point of view, I know we've not really got into this, but what stops diversity?
I think you hire what you know.
Yeah.
So you hire from the experiences that you've had. You hire from the universe that you've been. You hire what looks like you. Like, you just hire what you know. And unfortunately, we are dominated by white men. So that's why, we have a lot of those issues. And also, a lot of our industry, especially in the strategy backgrounds, are privately educated. So again, you've got that kind of coming through. No, I'm not against any of this. I'm just kind of saying this is what happens. You give helping hands, and you don't realise you are giving those helping hands because I went to that top uni, so I'm going to pick the best talent from that top uni.
And you're not doing it because you're a bad person.
It's not
you're
nasty,
doing it because that's what you think is the best.
It's subconscious. You just don't realise. And also the studios are designed for the white man because they were set up in the 60s for the white man or the 80s or whenever they were set up. So imagine asking talent to come in who isn't from that background, who isn't from that environment, to perform and succeed in that without actually doing anything to help them perform.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a big responsibility, and you need to disrupt it on a management level and a commitment level, because I think there are amazing initiatives and movements and charities, D&AD Shift, D&AD New Blood. There's a lot of incredible access, but it does take organisation and commitment from the studio to commit to it, and anyone can do it, and we do it, and we do it really well, but it is part of the business and it's part of the people strategy. And if you're committing to that, you know that every year there are 2 placements put aside for Shift. It's a non-negotiable. You know that we are going to coerce our clients to do briefs for New Blood, and they are going to commit the thousands of pounds to do it. They're going to get a great feedback from it. But I think you have to be structured and you have to commit to it. And I think if people are just heads down in the work, it's never going to change. You have to put your head up and go, absolutely, we'll do it. And to your point, Emma, I think also when they're in, you need to support them. Because it's not just like, oh, here you go then. Off you go, succeed. That also isn't necessarily feasible. So you also have to commit a buddy system, or there's some downtime, there's a brief ready that they can just pick up if something's fallen out. Whatever it is, I think it is a commitment from the agency that is actually, I believe, quite easy. And I think great agencies are doing it, and lots of agencies are not doing it, and they should.
Yeah. And I completely agree. I also think the mandate of back to the office, so that works. A lot of the bigger agencies that can afford juniors, or actually most of the agencies actually, are in London. And if you're mandating people to come into the studio, or you're only picking from anyone that's in a radius of London, you're missing out a huge amount of talent. So again, if you want to reach talent in Birmingham, Manchester, Ireland, Glasgow, there's incredible places where there is such rich talent. You can't just expect to say, I'm going to pay you the minimum wage, and then you can come and have a job. Again, it goes back to the conditions. You have to be able to help, relocate or bend the rules for them. Let them come in, let them work remote to give them that experience, because otherwise you're just going to have from the same M25 pool of people. And let's face it, that's people who've got rich aunties or uncles in London.
Can I build on that? I feel really strongly about this at the moment, because with AI and all knowledge is so accessible to everybody that there's a concern that the ability to get a job will go from what you know back to who you know, which is a huge concern. As a recruitment business, maybe I should be glad about that, but I'm not, because as someone from a lower socioeconomic background myself, I know how important it is that we level the playing field and enable the right conditions for growth for everybody. So this who you know as opposed to what you know is a greater concern, and could exacerbate issues that we thought we'd eradicated maybe a decade ago, like having such a London-centric industry, or needing to be in the know or in the network already to be able to get your first rung on the ladder.
Do you see it changing at all? Is it with the whole sort of levelling up and the sort of... We work, from Red Setter's point of view, we work with more agencies outside London, but it's still very London and New York centric. You're based in Leeds, aren't you? So do you see more?
Yeah, we're in Manchester, and luckily, I mean, we have people championing incredible talent where we are. And in fact, I was speaking only last week to an agency in Huddersfield who have just rebranded one of the biggest brands you can imagine. So I'm really pleased that we have that talent.
Yeah.
But like you say, you need to enable the kind of managerial ability and drive to do that. Of course, we just need to make sure that we've got our priorities right, and it will happen.
Yeah, I agree.
I was just going to quickly say, like, just to piggyback off Claire's point, D&AD is, of course, like, a program that I went through. They are, like, a shining example to the rest of the industry. Unfortunately, they can't be an agency themselves, but they do sit in that space between, like, people from underrepresented communities and the agencies, agency land. This is, like, the most incredible place of, like, inclusive, like the cohorts are completely inclusive. I did it myself, and I was alongside 13, 14 people, real eclectic mix of people.
How did you find them? How did you find Shift?
Do you know what? I think actually it was word of mouth. I feel like a friend told me about it, and actually that sort of promotion is really good with them. I mean, I've just told my cousin about it. I saw last year's cohort, and there were some people connected to the last cohort. It's not in a like sort of like family way where you can't get in, but people do. You have to recommend this if you've been through it. It's kind of life changing. So it's a night school that happens over, I think, like 12 weeks. And what they do so well, like I said, is they literally go to the extreme and will pick like a real varied group of people. Like, so they're not just saying it; they're actually doing it. And what that does for you, I mean, you're in and out of agencies and meeting people like this, like every week, and it really like affirms the belief that you can do it. Like just stepping into those buildings and receiving these masterclasses from these people, and then you're working on obviously not live briefs, but you're exercising that creative muscle, and you're getting the chance to do it, even if it's a mock chance. But the great bit is the aftercare, where you are. I mean, myself, I went to do like 2 internships in a row at Pearl Fisher and Design Bridge. I didn't really want to like stay on. That wasn't my end goal, but the amount of gas that's given me in my tank for my freelance career, second to none. So I feel like, yeah, out of the discussion we've been having so far, they're actually doing a great job of addressing the problem. Yeah.
So did you find it much easier to get a job after Shift, was it?
Yeah, like even in my freelance life, like, you know, I for clout even, you know, like I've like the fact that I've stepped in and mixed it with these people, I say to people, I've said to Claire privately, Design Bridge is like the Champions League of design, and it really is. Like, when, you know, it's nice to have those names on your CV and get a bit of get that reputation, get that kudos. Yeah. Do
you know much about New Blood as well? Does New Blood help? Is that...
New Blood's amazing. I actually got on to the Shift course on the back of New Blood. So I had no portfolio or anything like that. But I said to myself, I'm going to give this a go. And I made my portfolio based off of those New Blood challenges. So I think there's like 16 of them. I did like 4, stuck them in one PDF, submitted that for my Shift application, and that's how I got in. Yeah.
What about, is everyone all right? Has it suddenly started raining?
Get under the parasol.
Yeah, definitely. What about, does anyone know from an education point of view, what do you think we could change at that sort of first entry level? What could you change within the education industry to almost stop the need for things like Shift? Like, how could we open it up?
I'm going to just hog the mic just for 1 second. right? And just add on to that education
Yeah,
piece. And I
sure.
think someone touched on it before. That communication piece for like young designers just coming in is super important. I would say like as much as they've got a mastery of AI, and like doing new and interesting things with it, like really work on on selling yourself. I think someone else said
yeah.
selling yourself. Yeah, you said selling yourself. You that part is pushing pixels around. I think is maybe just over half of the job now.
Yeah.
Like I think any trades person needs to sell the experience of who you are. What is it like actually being with me? Because I think all senior designers will agree. Like we're trying to recruit an attitude, a certain attitude mindset. I can work with that. So I'd say there's plenty of brilliant Gen Z people out there, but try and deliver that. Try and find a way to say that about yourself. Yeah.
So I mentioned about like knowing your value, kind of really knowing how to sell yourself and stand out, because when you come into a studio, you come into the industry, to your point, like being able to design is like 50% of the job. You got to sell it.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to sell yourself, then how do you sell the work? And I think, I don't know if it's changed, but when I came into the industry, I was like, I'm amazing. I just thought I'm going to walk in to a studio and I'm going to get to just be paid to be creative. I didn't know how a studio ran. I didn't really understand the rules of that. Oh, there's the client brief, and you've got to answer the brief, and you've got to do it in this time with this money. So I think it's like prepare them for studio life, give them or help them with that resilience alongside helping them understand their value and how to sell themselves and why they're different.
Did you get taught any of that when
No,
you were...
did a bollocks. No, absolutely not. No. And I'm talking about it like I can only say it from words of wisdom. I've been doing it for 20 odd years. And I've only, probably in the last decade, really learnt my value, really learnt and understood why I'm different, and can confidently, without sounding arrogant, say that. And that has, it's taken some time. But I came into the industry eyes wide open at the shock of my life. And it's this kind of like adjustment period. And I
So
think...
do you think there's more education could do at a certain level of just preparing?
Just prepare you, because they just I don't know if it's any different now. You spend the time learning the fundamentals of design, and you put a folio together, and then you're left. There's no like, how do I sell myself, and what am I walking into in real studio culture and studio life and working with clients. There is none of that. Maybe it's different, but I didn't have that.
And I think on the topic of education, technology is moving at an incredibly inspirational and frightening pace. I don't think education is moving at the same pace. Either from a school point of view, in terms of curriculum, the creative arts are massively diminished in school. So you need to have, either a huge calling or talent to push yourself through that, because it's not naturally encouraged at the moment. And then I think in terms of university courses, exactly what you're saying. I think you are taught at the great ones, great ideas, and there's a lot of emphasis on craft and, the actual execution of it. And that is the bit where actually the execution, depending what you're using, can be quite equalised again. Like everything can look quite good. So then the differentiator is ideas. And the differentiator is judgment and taste and your own flair.
How did you get that across? I was speaking to someone that runs one of the university courses a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying, I was talking to him about the problem, and he was saying, we're completely different. I won't name the university, but we're completely different here. All of our students are really industry ready. They know all about paper. They know all about finishes. They know all about... And I was kind of thinking, that's not industry ready. That's just been able to make things look decent.
I think there does need to be a proper tangible connection to industry with education, that is properly funded and committed to, so that there is, or real commitments, or I don't know, partnering or whatever it is, so that there is that reality. Because some students will just go out of their way and do placements, and they'll get like a good, point of view on it. But that's the ones that are going out there doing it themselves, which, to your point, could be because they have the social mobility to be able to do that. Yeah. So that, again, can be quite discriminatory.
Yeah. I mean, those same communication skills that I'm banging on about now, but they are even important if you do want to go out and do it yourself. Because with your clients, you've got to do that account management. Like, you're going to get more business through that word of mouth. People are going to speak your name if they feel looked after through every step of the process. If you are just great at design, it's not going to happen. Like, you need to be that affable, sort of like able to build rapport with your client, walk them through every step of the way. Certainly, that's what made the change in my career. Like, it was when I started focusing on my communication rather than just trying to be a great designer. Yeah.
How do we get universities to change and education to change, and what's the answer to the whole thing? But do you think it is them having partnership with design agencies that can talk to them and teach them what to do and have a two-way process?
I think that could be amazing. I feel like it's such a big topic. I don't know what the solution is. I don't know if it also comes down to legislation and funding and things that you sometimes feel are a bit too big for you to affect or impact.
If schools literally don't have an art department, then there's not much you can do about...
They're cycling through all 5 of drama, music, art, like all of those.
Yeah.
They can choose one of those, or they're cycling through them throughout a year rather than having them as individual topics. I mean, that's so different to when I was at school.
Wow, definitely.
I think we could go all day on this topic, couldn't we? I don't know if there's an attraction issue. There's 70,000 graduates every year in creative. Yeah, there's loads of people who want to do creative work. I think there's just a massive gap between expectations and reality. When I graduated, I could screen print the shit out of something, but did I know how to sell design? Absolutely not. And so I was one of those, I can laugh about it now, but straight out of uni, tried to start a design agency. And I thought briefs would just rain down upon me as I crossed the street, and it was so different to what I expected because I was given such misplaced confidence. So I felt great about my ability to be a graphic designer, but I knew nothing of the value of design, which is exactly what you were just saying, Emma. Yeah. And I think there's designers 30 years down the line who still couldn't sell their value. I think that zooming right out, being able to sell creativity and have it be a real valuable place, have a valuable place in business and be an element of how things grow. If we can all sell that and bring that into university course through internships or through just better education, I think that's kind of like the missing gap. It's something I could talk about all day long, is that a lot of agencies, this panel very much aside, a lot of agencies don't know how to sell what they do or don't know what creativity really delivers.
Yeah, I completely agree. Which again is a problem for the whole industry because people don't take it as seriously as they should. They don't see it as a serious business tool. Not everyone, but there's a huge perception problem. What about the future? Sorry, go on, Emma.
Really controversial again. I also wonder how many of these lectures at university, when were they last in industry?
Yes.
And the favourite unis might have connections to industry, but I can imagine 90% of the courses at uni are taught by people who have never been in industry or haven't been in industry for the last 20 or 30 years. Yeah. So their fingers are not on the pulse with studio life or they're great on the fundamentals, the basics, because they don't ever seem to change because that is the fundamentals. But really understanding what it takes to get a job and to survive, because there's one thing getting a job and then there's another thing surviving in the industry as well. And I think when you are so disconnected from that as a practitioner yourself, it's like a CD who's so disconnected from the work, there's only so long you can continue like that. And I think part of that's happening in some of the universities, a lot of the universities, that the lecturers are so disconnected themselves, and it should be on them as well to build those connections with the industry.
So how about if every agency in the UK or whichever region had once a week released a creative to be a visiting lecturer at uni? Actually, that scale, it would be quite a small commitment for the studios. It would be fueling for the creatives to do that. And actually, if you think of the cumulative impact, that could be something quite amazing.
That could be massive. Yeah.
Maybe we've solved it. Maybe that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I think we should start something like that. I think that's the sort of thing, isn't it? That's what needs to change. We get a industry-wide consensus that we just start doing that kind of stuff. I think education's up for it too.
Who's going to solve it? Creatives are going to solve it, probably.
Yeah,
but I think everyone feels a bit like, no, I don't know. Is there someone official that's going to sort this out for us? It's like there probably isn't.
Yeah.
So what are we going to actually do, and what can we do in small steps, but together becomes quite a big thing?
Yeah, I was speaking to someone that runs the graphic design course at Solent University in Southampton, and she was saying that she'd love to get people in, she'd love to get people from the industry, but when it comes to it, she can't pay them, and she knows that she feels really bad about it, so she never asks. I was kind of thinking, but
I think most people do it for free.
yeah, people do it for free. You don't need to.
No, I don't. I think like people are willing to give up their time. A, it's the uni that they've been to, but B, like, because we all want, like, the lifeblood of any agency is the creative juice that kind of comes up, that kind of curiosity, that hunger, that thirst, that the culture of a studio thrives on that. So you kind of want to give back, and I think like we've all been there and done that struggle. So I don't think anybody, and you're a bad person if you do, is only doing it for the money. I think that's a half-assed excuse. It's easy to say, "Oh, I didn't try because I'm worried about this." You can say that when you actually
get out
try.
there and do it, and I think it just makes things happen.
And
Yeah,
it's not,
encourage
it's
that.
kind of related, but I think also like email design tasks, like I think we've got to stop doing that. I think like we need to, like you need to meet people.
Yeah.
And I think actually there might be like a healthy compromise between the two, which is where you could probably get people to come in to your environment to do that design task. Like, it doesn't need to be so impersonable. And I know that's one, I know I'm speaking on behalf of loads of people that aren't here when I say that. Like, it really is impersonable. And you can actually take something from the application process if you can actually meet someone. But when you're just like miles away doing a task, it's like, yeah, it's very discouraging.
Yeah, I agree. On every level, just getting out and meeting people makes a big difference. What about the future then? Do you think that's the thing we should look at changing, that just hooking up education in the industry? Was there anything else you think that we should focus on now? I want to open it up to you guys as well and see if there's any ideas. Has anyone got any thoughts on that? We can just like shout out of what we could change to make it more accessible and...
We've got lots of questions.
Go on, Miriam.
Let me grab one of these microphones, bring them out. Let me grab that one. If you can say who you are and which organisation you're with. Here we go.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Miriam. I'm an account manager with Red Setter, working with Claire. AI is still the umbrella that's sitting, or kind of the undertone that's sitting along this conversation. And we've spoken really well about how it's not necessarily the problem, it's how juniors may be misinterpreting how to use it. So I'm curious to hear from maybe those who are in agencies or are practicing, and also those who are helping people get those roles, how you are helping those juniors to harness that instrument, and what's the differentiator between it replacing those ideas, between fueling them?
I mean, I don't think, I've got the mic, so I'll answer first. I don't think it's replacing ideas ever. I think it's the space for review. And I think it's the space for reviewing what the output and, you know, what does that look like and why is it right or why does it feel not right? You know, actually, how do you develop that sense of whether it's on brand or on brief versus it looks cool? And I think that's the problem, is that very quickly you can make great looking stuff. And that is often fine, and it's quite, you know, baseline now. So it's almost like if that has raised the floor, what is going to raise the ceiling? You know, and that is the more unique, the oddities, the, you know, the unexpected things. And I think the unexpected things come when you've covered a lot of ground and you're debating it and you're pushing it and you're, you know, really sweating the extremes of it. And then you create something that's much more unexpected. And I think they need the space and also the encouragement and the mentorship to develop that. And for you all, and also, you know, we're learning at the same time. So actually for all of you to go, at what point does this feel a bit predictable versus, you know, feeling something that it could be really exciting?
Yeah, I completely agree, Claire. And I think, like, you know, seniors need mentees. Like, people need to be mentored to be, like, using this stuff properly. I've been in an agency environment where I've seen people using, like a job done. No, it's not job done. You need to be discernible about this stuff. And I think that's where the judgment comes in, and seniors can teach judgment really well. I think my advice is more general. It's not even really advice, but I think the juniors that will win with, like, using AI, are the ones that actually aren't using it that much. Like, you've got to get out into these analog spaces, books, travel, like other sources of analog inspiration. I think these things actually even feed into your communication style as well, that I was banging on about before. So, yeah, that would be my advice.
I'm going to build on that. Your original question, Claire, was what needs to change?
Yeah, what needs to change?
I think we just need to stop obsessing over AI. Go over it. Like, and I think we should be encouraging our juniors and everybody in the industry to get more curious, to get more creative, to find those unexpected, because creativity is unexpected connections from the experiences that you've had. You're not going to come up with the same thing and I'm going to come up because you've had a different background to I have, or different experiences. We should encourage designers, youngsters, juniors, give them the space to be more curious, more creative, fuel that, encourage that. That's what they'll feed in when they're playing around with AI, but not, and that's if they want to your point. But I think we just need to stop obsessing over it, because it's here to stay and it's got a use, but it's not replacing anyone. Not,
becomes an excuse.
it is an excuse, and I think we need I mean, I'll go off on a tangent, but I think our industry's got a bigger problem in that the diversity of work, the diversity of studios. Everyone's reproducing the same old shit, the same old model, and that needs to stop. And I don't know if that is linked to AI at all. But the way to get out of that is to fuel creativity and curiosity, and that's what needs to change.
Yeah, I'm agree.
Can I make a quick build, which is as well as what should change? I think it's worth acknowledging what is changing and how perhaps the industry landscape is changing right now. So there are 24,747 agencies registered in the UK today. There are just under 200,000 people working in those agencies. So the average agency size is just 7.8 people. It's actually quite small. And so when we talk about talent density, which is kind of like a buzz term at the moment, it means everyone really needs to know their value and earn their place. And so what we might see is a bit of a flattened model where people are ICs, individual contributors, and so you need to bring more to work. And so that does mean there are going to be greater demands on people. And so you just, again, ringing the bell for knowing your value and knowing your place in those agencies that might look very different in a few years' time, rather than all the support of managerial structures that we might have today.
Again, if you can say who you are and who you're with, and then ask away.
Hey everyone, it's Sammy here from D&AD. Thank you for giving a platform to a conversation more than worth having, right? And thank you for including us. Shola, good to see you, mate. In fact, it's been my pleasure to have met everybody up there at one time or another, because I think we share a passion that it shouldn't matter where you come from. Our industry needs you, and perhaps now more than ever. And I don't really have a question. I just wanted to say that D&AD is nothing if not organisers and mobilisers for an industry to help them serve themselves. That's what we do, really. You think about our awards, you all get together and award them. We just provide the structure for it. And we do the same through New Blood and Shift in different ways, because a different talent has different requirements to come into the industry. But we have done stuff, and I think that maybe there's always more to do. But universities, for example, I think somebody mentioned that don't have an alumni network, people to go back in, and we've provided them, actually through WPP, have been wonderful in that regard. We tap into their agencies and send their people into universities that don't have people that are active practitioners accessible to them. And I guess it's more just an open invitation to anybody and everybody that cares about this stuff, that we are here, we haven't got all the solutions, but we are definitely invested. It's a reason for being. That's why the charity exists. And it's fucking awesome watching Shola and people going on and show the industry what it's been missing for too long. And those are really good days at work. So thank you, Shola, and all of your talent and your people that are doing amazing things. No question there, was there? Sorry, absolutely no question. But I wanted to thank you. Cheers.
I think that's probably because everyone's keen on heading upstairs for a glass of wine and a beer. So thank you very much to Red Setter for coming up with this idea. I'll leave you with the last word, Claire. Thank you to all of your panellists. I've enjoyed listening to you. Thank you.
Thank you. No, let's continue the conversation upstairs. I think it's really important. I think it's that the diversity issue together with the lack of connection between education and the industry, if we could solve those two things, then we can move forward. So yeah, let's talk about how to make it happen.
Thank you.